Walker by Johanna Dinsdale. Audio recording voiced by Johanna Dinsdale. Please enjoy this free audiobook experience. Chapter 1, Unbound. There is a faint crackle to the vending machine earbuds that produces the theme to my walk home. I have grown accustomed to it, but today the sound seems to be louder than ever, buzzing like the thoughts in my head. It is somewhat a kind distraction to the nausea that has my stomach twisted in a knot as I near my destination. Empty backpack swung over my shoulder, students slowly vanish as I walk towards the outskirts of town. I can't find any consolation that I have just graduated high school. My classmates were interesting to observe as they discussed their plans of grandeur, post-secondary school, and secure jobs. If there is anything to derive from the circumstance, it is relief to escape the intimidating, constricting construct of a building filled with hormonal and psychotic teenagers. At the end, though, everyone seemed pleasant enough. I wonder if they felt the same relief to be rid of each other as I did. It was very tiring to keep up with the impression that my future held something optimistic and fantastic, when even the odd, polite graduate would ask. Social norms indicate that this is the correct answer to give, not mildly inconvenience their day with the dismal truth. Why can't my mind focus on the situation at hand? I step over a puddle to avoid filling my worn sneakers and turn the curb onto my street. I shake my head trying to focus. My brain is detached from my control, like an untrained dog. I can call and beg, but the stupid thing leaps ahead, running from scent to scent, tearing into discarded items, rolling in the dirt. And the crackling grows ever louder in my ears, and I finally arrive in the front of the sun-peeled house, taking in the already anticipated sight. There, on the lawn, are all my worldly possessions, taking up just a corner of the dried up grass. Eyeing it wearily, I wonder if I could fit most of it into my bag. I can. The clothes are shoved to the bottom, water bottle stacked on top, my Swiss Army knife and MP3 charger gingerly wrapped to the bottom, swaddled in my beanie. I notice my cigarettes aren't present. Giving one last look at the house, I can see the silhouette of my mother through the dusty screened window. She's illuminated by the television screen, the pale light making her look like an apparition. The urge to say goodbye conjured, which startles me, a memory of life and the ghost. But he would be here soon, and I contemplate the need of both legs to make it on the street. I pull up my hood and start the journey to start again, Vancouver bound. Chapter 2, Air. The June wind is warm on my sweating face, the midday sun making the highway road shimmer. Logic tells me to take off my dark car coat, but but there's something about its comforting heaviness on my thin frame. The traffic is dense, and as I walk, I keep occupied by catching glimpses of faces in the passing cars and contemplating what they may think of the dusty teenager they just passed. Maybe they have their own theories about the grass stains on my jeans, or why my auburn hair jolts out eccentrically on its own accord, or the choice in my method of transportation. I play such a fleeting existence in their lives, in theirs and mine. I'll never know if they might give a second thought about me, but I like to give those strangers a respectful moment in mine. I know I should be thinking strategically about the future. I should be making a plan for when I arrive. I hate plans. They rarely hold up and often let me down. I squint ahead to see the progress I've made. The skyscrapers that make up the city of promise crept closer, and I feel satisfied that I will arrive there by tonight. There's something about being able to connect emotionally with the existence of a turtle. Thousands of people whizzing by, accomplishing what took you hours in minutes. The impulse to spit on the ground overcomes me. I do, and I crave a cigarette. I decide I should ultimately kick the habit, considering I have to live off my savings of exactly $35.10 until I figure out some way to sustain myself. I still want a cigarette. A red Corvette rapidly approaching catches my eye, then the stunning girl sitting in the passenger seat. Her platinum hair whipping in the wind is hypnotizing, and her thin eyebrows are furrowed at the thin phone that is being furiously stabbed with thin red painted nails. She looks up at me, and I nervously half grin reactively. She rolls her eyes, resumes texting. Soon as she appeared, she's gone. There's a pang of hurt, which I quickly extinguish. I confirmed my idea long ago that this planet is filled with people too self-absorbed in their own lives to care about anyone else. Involuntarily, my brain swirls with images of teachers too tired to help, colleagues obsessing over their looks, nobody noticing the bruises, my mother choosing him over me. I shake my head. I'm going to find some peace of mind in this city if it kills me. The skyscrapers creep closer. Chapter 3: Church and Cheese. My MP3 has shut down, and so has my body. I groggily open my eyes to the sound of a door being rapped loudly, and the rambles of an annoyingly shrill voice. It takes me a few seconds to gather where I am. The relatively filthy floor of a coffee shop's disabled bathroom in Vancouver. I made it. A mixture of accomplishment and soreness wash over me. I briefly panic over the disappearance of my backpack, then realize I had been using it as a pillow. Quickly I brush it off, sidestep and mumble an apology to the audacious employee, and hurry outside. Sunshine was just beginning to peek out from over the bridal store across the street, and I deeply breathe in the fresh morning air. Welcome home. The blissful moment of profound freedom was broken by the rumbling of my stomach, caused by the smell of freshly made bagels wafting through the air. I guess this is where reality kicks in. Starvation wouldn't be my first choice in how to go. I peer around the street that is lined with small name businesses, owners inside preparing for the day's customers. I meander down the way until I find a local market that had a decent amount of shoppers pursuing the fresh produce. The bustle and chatter of the regulars gives me camouflage, and I innocently browse up and down the wooden aisles. It astounds me that I still feel a moral pang of guilt as I stealthily slip a wheel of Jarlsberg cheese into my deep pocket, whilst averting the attention of the owner to a smudge on her shirt. The hell knows where I picked up morals. No one really taught them to me. Perhaps empathy is like a genetic trait that is prone to skip generations, and I escape with my prize, putting a few blocks between me and the shopkeeper before digging in. Parking my ass on some steps, I rip off the wax rind and take the first bite. The mild, buttery, slightly sweet taste relieves me of the unbrushed morning taste, and I cry out with contentment, quite unintentionally. A grunt of disdain comes from behind me. Still chewing, I curiously locate the origin of the sound. It had come out from under an outrageous hat made of presumably real fur, perched on top of a frail old woman dressed in a sickly green dress. Her bony hands clutched at her equally ancient friend's arm, tugging her my direction as her watery eyes bulged and infiltrated. "Wouldn't you just look at the state of him, Sylvia? Why, if my grandson went out looking like that, I'd give him a good smacking. You hear me, young man?" They both cackled like crows and pushed past me. They teeter into the small brick steeple that I was blocking, struggling to stay balanced, walking in their outrageously high heels. I make another massive dent into the cheese. I wonder if laughter at that age can provoke heart attacks. I'll have to read up on that. I finish the wheel, spin a wheel, and pick a direction. As I wander, I catch glimpses of myself in the many window shop reflections. My own physical appearance had never been an important topic of interest to me. I rarely have the opportunity to observe myself, and slow to stop outside of a perfume store to analyze the sight. The figure in the window stares back at me, his pale blue eyes rimmed with dark circles, pale freckled face slightly sunburned, thin lips cracked and squeezed together, giving the impression of nervousness, wild hair mixed with dirt and sweat. Dust and grime seems to be the theme of the whole outfit, patterning the jacket, caked into the zipper and tan material of the backpack. Very suave. I try running my hands through the matted mess on my head, and opt into throwing on my chocolate-colored beanie that I had acquired in an empty hall during a school fire drill. Hopefully this will ward off any more witches until I can find a place to clean up. I set off to find a fast food restaurant, and there is one found within spitting distance. I grab a handful of wipes and proceed into the washroom to spend the next hour wiping my body of the grudge from the trip, using paper towel to dry. I stick my head under the faucet, the cool water feeling magical on my neck. I debate using hand soap in my hair and decide it wouldn't possibly make the tangled jumble any more worse. In the middle of my makeshift shower, a gentleman in a crisp navy suit interrupts. My chest tightens, and I awkwardly continue to rinse. I catch his startled expression in the mirror. I prepare myself for anything shitty this guy can throw at me. Comebacks are not my forte. He says nothing, goes about his business, washes his hands and leaves. When I pull my head out from under the sink, there's a $20 bill sitting on top of my backpack. I squint at it for a long time and wonder how I feel about handouts. My thoughts jump back to a few years ago when I spent the night wandering my hometown. I overheard a discussion on pride by a group of muscular men smoking outside of a pub. Through coughs, I heard one of the members boasting about his denial of an offer from his wife's family to finance his kid to go into a sports camp. Would have hurt his honor. I decide that this guy is an asshole. I put the $20 in my pocket. Chapter 4. Where? Losing the dirt makes me feel 10 pounds lighter. I leave the fast food joint and start to wander around slowly and aimlessly down Hastings Street, absorbing my surroundings. The city has slowly begun to wake up. Fascinating people emerging from their hiding places and speckling the streets with life. The diversity of the individuals that make up the community is fascinating, ranging everything from Botox Barbies to wannabe hippie subtypes. A pleasant symphony of upbeat voices, drone of cars, shop music and birds replace my usual MP3 playlist, and I decide today I'll go earbud free. There's a familiar buzz of anxiety with the aspect of being approached unexpectedly, but I find there's safety in numbers, and I remain refreshingly unnoticed. Skinny beauties in crop tops lounge on the sidewalk curbs. A perspiring businessman resembling a withered Christopher Walken barks into his cell phone. I sidestep to avoid being taken out by a blue bearded tattoo with a longboard. The smell of tobacco saturated into a passerby fills my nose, and my addiction rears its ugly head. I spy a drugstore and feel myself being drawn in. The interior was dark, and the bubbly young cashier offers an apology. They are in the middle of some power renovations. I give her a genuine smile and nod. My lucky day. No electricity translates to no cameras, no tag detector. I go to town. Razor, lighter, toothbrush, tape, scissors, a few boxes of candy, much needed deodorant, all disappear into my clothing. I approach the till and purchase a bag of peanut M&Ms and a box of Pall Mall Red. The texture of the paper carton under the silky plastic covering is so appealing. Hello again. I spend the rest of my day in Strathcona Park, indulging my smokes, allowing my mind freedom to roam, while taping up the angry-looking blisters that appeared on both of my feet. The curriculum from high school seems like a lifetime ago, and I wonder if any of it will be useful to my circumstances now. I'm looking forward to the day Pythagorean theorem will come to my rescue. Should I ever be attacked, maybe I can impress the assaulters with my ability to do a 30-second bar hang, or my knowledge of the history of King Henry VIII's wives. Who knows? My impeccable skill to identify types of clouds might land me a job. I'm still proud of myself for graduating against all odds. The information may be useless logically, but it's still wonderfully interesting and gave me a focus when reality was a dark place. The parade of people enjoying the warm weather passes infinitely before my park bench, each minute bringing a new colorful display. I feel my eyes drooping and stretch out my long body over the seat, backpack at my head. I feel the embrace of sleep spreading through my limbs. My last drowsy thought is of the rustle of the leaves above my head. How the sound reminds me of the static from my mother's television. Chapter 5, Bellevue, the Doppler effect of a voice. Hey, rise and shine, princess. A sharp jab to my stomach knocks the wing out of me. I flail and fall over. I'm lost in the daze of a sleep maze. The world churns around me. I try to gain my balance to stand on the cold concrete as two figures loom over me. It was nighttime. You can barely make out the police uniforms from the dim orange light of the lampposts. Shit. Are you aware that sleeping in public parks after hours is illegal? The one who barks the inquiry was the larger of the two. He had a poorly sculpted handlebar mustache, and his beady eyes glint at me with gleeful malice. His partner snickers. My heart tries to escape my chest cavity. I mumble an apology. I try to slink away, but the burly man's arm, still holding his baton, stretches miles and blocks me. Hold up there, sport. Did I say you could go? He leans his poorly shaven face close to mine. When he emphasizes on his words, spit could be seen, hoarded in his cheeks. I can smell the coffee undertones of his terrible breath, and I am afraid to make eye contact. I have to get out of here. His partner paces behind like an obese hyena, his wheezing laugh egging mustache on. I want to know if you've learned your lesson, I'm afraid he hasn't learned his lesson, Bill. I have a theory that if we walk up to this park bench the same time tomorrow night, he'll be right here as if the park is his personal goddamn living room. My mind races. I can't go to jail. I can't have a record. I can't be noticed. I won't be detained. I bolt backwards, grabbing my backpack to run. Something catches my leg and I fall onto the pavement, tearing open my knees. A blow to the back makes me cry out. Pain rips through me. I feel a boot heel grind into my spine. Running from the authorities, eh? Big mistake. Time to teach you your lesson, you little bang! A deafening sound. An eruption of white light shrieks towards us, descending from the trees. It hits the man standing on me and explodes, letting all hell loose. Millions of dazzling stars flew everywhere, screaming as they whirl and light up the park. Mustache reels over from the impact, hollering at the top of his lungs. I have no idea what's going on, and I am not about to stick around to find out. I jump up, take off. I can smell the singed uniform and hear Hyena attempting to whack the tiny fires out of his partner's clothes, cursing loudly. Go. My feet pound the sidewalk. I must be leaving indents on the street. My skeleton might make a break for it without the rest of me. I get out of the park, down the closest avenue, into the suburbs. Finally, out of breath, I jump a wooden fence into a backyard. I crumple to the ground and press my forehead against the damp grass. What the hell? Lying here panting, I'm not sure what to make of what just happened. Only moments pass when a creak from the garden gate makes me struggle to my feet. Standing there is a dark, silhouetted figure. The house owner, police. I look wildly around me, but there's no escape. I turn to face the captor, ready to face the music. The person steps forward and reveals her dusty, grinning face. The stranger drops a huge and empty box of fireworks at my feet. Chapter 6. My Name. You run fast. I wasn't sure if I could keep up with you. Sorry if you got a little crisped up. I actually meant to hit the other cop. Those two in particular love to screw with street leads. Must be a great power trip. I guess we showed them otherwise, eh? I stared at my dark savior, sizing her up. More, trying to make out what kind of being would blow up the authorities. She stares right back. Black-rimmed, velvety brown-colored eyes seem at ease, casually looking me over with a friendly smirk on her lips. Long, sun-bleached hair in 2 braids, fitted under a worn, gray baseball cap turned backwards. The purple stone in her left ear glows from the light of a solar panel garden lamps, sparkling in the yard. I notice the large hiking backpack she wears is damaged, possibly from the weather, much like her loose-fitting clothes, worn with makeshift repairs. She's like me, alone out here. I don't know what to say. I find myself feeling self-conscious, and my feet shuffle nervously on the wet grass. Say something, idiot. How come you helped me? Her eyes wrinkle at the corners as she laughs. Not used to the world doing you any favors? Well, this one's on me. No strings attached. I was actually on my way to wake you up and warn you. I knew who was patrolling the park and passed you earlier, sleeping. They beat me there. I decided to have my Canada Day celebration a little early when I saw your graceful escape go bad. The result looked just as cool as I pictured it in my head, thank God. Her ridiculous, reckless joy about the scenario was intriguingly contagious. Well, thanks. I appreciate it, I say. Seriously, my pleasure. I didn't catch your name. My name? Not my birth name. That wasn't ever me, and I don't want that life following me here. Her name was Walker? That can't be real. So I'll pick a new one. I can't recall knowing many street names. None that reflect my character well enough to go by. And I wasn't cool enough to ever achieve the status of one with a nickname. Thinker, maybe? Oh God, that's shit. Get your ego straight. She'll know right away you just copied her name. I must have taken too long, or my furrowed face gave my turmoil away. With both hands out, she reaches mine. Her hands were rough like mine, warm like mine. She pulls me in close. Know anything about space? Not much, I say, confused. She laughs and gives my hand a nice shake. Inside joke, then. I'll call you Challenger. Chapter 7. 5 stars. She says she knows a place where we can sleep. Sexual innuendo. I've never been good at deciphering people's secret messages they layer in conversations. On a deeper level, I know there's no chance in hell. Yet a small part of me can't help but be hopeful. We leave the backyard together. She must be around my age, maybe a year younger. Her hands weave and dip as she cheerfully discusses a story someone once told her about a man living on a street who died from lack of sleep because civilians and cops wouldn't let him rest anywhere. She's pretty sure that's one of the worst ways to die. She walks fast in long strides. Her beige cargo pants are covered in pockets, bulky with items. They're held up with a rainbow-wrapped rope, doubled up and tied in a knot at her hip. Clever, double usable. I notice heaviness on one side of her dark green raincoat sleeve. A concealed weapon, perhaps. I wonder the danger of going with her. There's a chance she saved me to take my backpack. Or that she's a manic serial killer. She's talking about bunnies now. You see a lot of wildlife around here at night. A few years ago, I once followed a rabbit until dawn just to experience the life of a forest creature living in a city. Mind you, I was high as a kite at the time. Pickpocketed what I thought were aspirin off a mean hippie. She continues telling me the ludicrous story, and I can't help but laugh a little. Against all my anxieties, it's probably best to stick around for now. It may be a scheme to lure me into a kill room, but her knowledge of the police was to my advantage. We walk down a dark alley, and she pulls out a set of keys, unlocking the back door to a closed bakery. The manager of this pit taught me dumpster diving back here a few days ago. Some of the best day-old cakes you can find around these parts. I'm addicted. Anyway, he was pulling me out of the garbage. I snagged his keys. Idiot thought he could citizen arrest me, but let me tell you, in a bind I can squirm like none other. I've got earthworms in my jeans, I swear to God. She strolls into the kitchen like she owns the place. Her confidence is baffling me. I wonder if it's an absurd trait to have for her type of lifestyle. There are no cameras on the ceiling or alarms on the walls. The owner was indeed an idiot. Walker throws her backpack down and hops up on the metal counter, spinning to face me. Hungry? The nicotine that was sustaining me all day had cleared from my system. Starving. Yeah, I have some milk duds in my bag if you want some, I say. Astronaut head. Why waste those when we have a whole kitchen at our disposal? Wouldn't that give your hideout away? I'm sure that old Grinch is going to switch the locks any day now. Might as well enjoy some nice food while we have the opportunity. She hops towards the fridge, pants jangling. I plug in my MP3 to the kitchen speaker dock and start playing my favorite playlist. She pulls out a wonderful assortment of things stored away around the room. Eggs, flour, sticks of butter, baking sugar, oil, whipped cream, chocolate chips, tubes of cookie dough, sprinkles. She's buzzing around the kitchen now, like a seasoned, eccentric scientist in a lab. I don't know what to do or how to help. I grab a pan and hold it in my hand. That ought to make me look busy. She points a large wooden spoon at me. Tell me, sir, have you ever tried your hand at making pancakes? I can't remember cooking anything not out of a can. Nope, sorry. It's been years since I've tried, but I'm pretty sure as long as you got certain ingredients thrown in there, it's hard to go wrong. She cranks up the heat on the stove, and we begin to throw ingredients at random into a large bowl. I have no idea if icing or applesauce are supposed to be in pancake batter, but it feels liberating to have chaos in a tub with no reprimands. Puffs of flour and sugar get thrown into faces. Walker draws cat whiskers on my face with frosting. We blend the concoction in a large mixer. The swirling of the gentle colors mesmerizing. The lumps turn smooth, and what is left is a purplish-hued goop filled with toppings that get thrown into 2 separate pans. Walker worries it will stick to the bottom since we didn't spray it down, but she remembers she had put 2 sticks of butter into the mix, and the dough turns easily. We top it all off with pink icing and Rocky Road ice cream and stuff ourselves. It tastes sickly sweet and more like a cake than anything. Walker rolls around in apparent ecstasy as she shovels it down. We make eye contact and nod vigorously in agreement that this was the shit. Mouths full. She finishes her pancake first and tells me that the last time she tried to cook, it was a story that included a break-in, an angry bulldog, a feather duster, and a box of Kraft dinner, resulting in her setting her arm on fire. As I watch her speak, light words pouring between cracked lips effortlessly, I notice she is tan, an olive color, and her face has several freckles. When she talks with her whole body. Her arms move like a conductor, painting the picture of her experience with her hands. Enough about me, though. What's your story? How did you end up in the park? I'm caught off guard. I was enjoying the effortlessness and interesting one-sided flow of conversation. I suppose that it is a bit selfish of me, since she shared so much. But how much do I give in return? I choose my words carefully. I'm a guy with no place to be. Just finished high school, and I wanted to travel. Oh wow, high school diploma. Congratulations. Her eyes shone with admiration and interest. What was high school life like? You never went? No, I'd call myself homeschooled, she giggles at the inside joke. A funny and odd mess of hums. I'm going to live vicariously through you. Tell me everything there is to know about it. I start with the technicals, explaining the timelines, the layout of the school, and the different classes. I was concerned she already knew about this stuff. Maybe she did, but she hung on to every word. Lines stretched out on the counter, on her stomach, with her head lying on her crossed arms. She asked me what my favorite class was. I tell her anthropology. She wants to know everything I know about anthropology. I tell her about the four main fields of the study of humankind: sociocultural, biological, archaeological, and linguistic. I explain my interests between the ethics of cultural relativism and military involvement, how religion and patriotism are fabricated by people in power to rally participants. I describe my love for the narcissistic Malinowski, his adventure to the islands of Papua New Guinea, in his documentation of native interaction to unravel their savage behavior. Her legs kick whenever I tell something that amuses her. She asks if I had ever applied in the fieldwork research perspective to the people that I've met. I say every day. We talk late into the night, pouring out the information I'd packed away in a box in my head that I thought I would never share. Eventually her eyes begin to droop, and I suggest sleeping while we can. I use some folded up tablecloths as a pillow and bed. She spreads out a rolled up mat she digs out from the bottom of her bag. Walker lets out a big yawn. You're like a talking encyclopedia. That's the word. You know that? It's great, she says, half asleep. Night, Challenger. Night. After a few minutes, I can hear her breathing slow. The dream's taking its first passenger away. A thought keeps me awake for a while longer. It is a thought that makes me cautiously believe that this might be the new beginning I'm searching for. A thought that makes coming here worthwhile and the past seem less relevant. That was the longest someone has listened to me in my entire life. Chapter 8. Leave or Stay. After being shaken awake, she and I sneak out the back door as the store workers come in through the front. We casually speed away from the sound of the bellowing master chef who has discovered the evident evidence of our stay. She can't stop giggling, and the close pinch of escape has left me jittery. We could have gotten into a lot of trouble, Walker. Don't be so mundane. The day is dewy dusk, dully beautiful. She pulls out a carton of bakery milk, concealed in the bagginess of her clothing, and we take swags straight from the box. She's strolling in a particular direction. With what schedule, I have no clue. I'm not a qualified morning person, but the rising sun seems to bring a kindness with it. The air is cool, and the patches of grass segmenting the sidewalk are sprinkled in dew that reflects the rainbows back onto the rich green. We walk in silence a minute, absorbing the surroundings. My brain is beginning to shut off the sleep, and I'm not entirely certain what will come next. This strange girl has shown me compassion in giving me a shelter for the night. So when will she say goodbye and part ways? I think about instigating the farewell before she has to. Maybe that's the polite thing to do. I dislike the awkward end of social interactions. I'm aware it is one of my many weaknesses. I don't like the pause where the conversation has ceased and a polite excuse is made to exit the conversation. I don't like the lies of the talk to you later or see you around. I don't like how unpredictable people are in appearing in my life and then cutting out. It's easier to be alone. Yet I find myself drawn to her. There's a complexity and openness that I have never encountered before. I want to unfold that mystery. I hope she doesn't mind me walking alongside her for a little while longer. Where do you think the universe ends? Her question snapped me out of my dream state. She's strolling along the edge of a curb like a tightrope walker, swaying in the wind to keep her balance as the traffic rolls by. I think about it for a moment and get shy about my process, a shyness that multiplies 1,000 times by the second. I don't know why, I reply. Her nose crinkles and she grimaces sarcastically. There's no answer. That's an opt-out for the uncreative, unopinionated people. She pauses and leans her face, drifts closely towards me. Do better. Her tenacity towards my intellect surprises me. Well, I think maybe space isn't just a cluster of stars and then infinite darkness. If we got out into a spaceship right now and kept continuing on, incredibly fast and in a straight line, I think we might eventually end up back on Earth, like a loop. Maybe the universe isn't something that can be imagined like a whole thing, but the whole reality is wrapped in a bow. Time might be on that loop, and we live the same lives infinitely, around and around. Thinking about that makes me feel a bit sick to my stomach. I like it. I like that a lot. Never considered it. Walker stops to gawk at me in her unique form of admiration. Reminds me of that time how soldiers used to think the earth was flat and eventually they'd fall off the edge. What do you think? I'm thinking endless universes. The one where the universe is a box and you exit it and end up in the box lateral to it. Like a box with a universe just like our own, but different in one detail. And the box above it is a little bit different, and the box below it. And no matter which one you visit, it's our universe, but obscured in a little, just a little bit. Maybe in one world you bump into someone, you swap bodies. Or maybe the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs never hit, and we communicate to work on stegosauruses. Literally anything you think of exists in the infinite amount of alternate realities. It's a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing. I imagine the sky creeping towards us, standing on a shrinking world. Our heads passing through the stratosphere until we can't see the planet beneath. We get bigger, stars shoot past, and soon constellations, then nebulas, then galaxies. We take a step back and see the whole universe before our eyes, shining Christmas lights full of the secrets we'll never understand. The darkness of space, only a veil hiding a billion other dimensions in life's forms. I nod. A beautiful thing. Okay, now you ask me something you're curious about. So many questions about her. Are you homeless? Waste of a question, rude question, good job. I cringe mentally. She wasn't offended though. I prefer naturally sheltered, but yes. How about you? I have a hunch that you are a new recruit to the Urban Outdoorsman Club. True? I cross my arms, feeling a bit proud of the new title. True. Well then, I can offer you one life jacket piece of advice before you start your journey. Whatever circumstances, fucked up or not, you've endured to land yourself here is in the past conclusively. Bury your baggage in the nearest grave and pray that the zombies are a myth. Strange advice. Suddenly, she grabs my hand and pulls me into the street. We run across the road in a gap between traffic. The day is getting warmer. I feel my jacket absorbing the rays of the sun and keeping my body at a nice temperature. She turns down another walkway, past a grubby hair salon, with a small pod of staff enjoying their last smoke before the shift commences. Where are we going? I inquire. She's digging around one of her mid-thigh pockets and pulls out a piece of green felt. Eye holes are cut into it. It reminds me of what turtles wore on the lunch boxes of elementary school classmates. She peers over at my expression, battling to hide a grin. Her shoulders quickly rise and fall. A humming passes through her lips, and the mask wraps around her knuckles. I raise my eyebrows. I was hoping to visit a few friends of mine. They're off doing a fun thing, and I think you'd like to know these guys. Connections are important for safety, and I think you'll click quicker with the street folk if I introduce you. Cool? I promise it's totally cool. Though I was looking for a geographical answer, this will have to do for now. Perhaps a new connection may lead to a job opportunity. A fry cook job, or perhaps then what? Okay, sure. She hums a tune. I hope that this fun thing doesn't involve robbing a bank or passing around a needle filled with basement heroin. We walked another 10 minutes. A cluster of trees that made up a small forest approaches as our worn shoes hit the pavement. Walker seems to pull her head out of the clouds. Her eyes dart in between the vertical lines of the trunks, like she was trying to interpret the natural barcode location of our destination. A split second later, her eyes become huge as saucers, and she screams, "Duck!" Her hands clasp my jacket, using her entire body to roll me to the ground. Several dark objects whiz over our heads, one bouncing off my side. A chorus of screams ring out as a dozen concealed shadows rush out of the woods and down the slopes towards us. With new-found cat-like instincts, I dive, then face my opponents. They're all wearing earth-colored clothing, with warrior face paint, hooting like owls. What the hell was this? I was defenseless except for my fists, as my knife was buried deep in my bag. Stupid. I shield Walker with my body as she has fallen, laughing. The woman is in stitches, struggling to put on her mask as the crowd descends down the slope. I look to see that the projectiles were in fact plastic ninja stars. Now it clicks. These were her friends. Jesus. Hark! Which mortals dare pass through this forest of Algornius? The gruff voice penetrates the sounds of whooping calls. An extremely tall but thin teenager steps forward. Over his clothes, he is wrapped in what appears to be fake velvet and fur, duct-taped in an X around his torso and shirt. He gives Walker a genuine smile, but when his muted ash and bloodshot eyes flick to me, they narrow in distrust. His comrades have all the same doped-up expressions and strange attire. Grubby street clothes splashed with costume pieces. One girl with a mane of red hair seems to have some sort of unicorn horn tied around her head. Another member has a ski mask on, with paper ears attached. Most have leaves coming out of their socks. Walker takes a dramatic bow. Sinsen, king of the forest assassins, we humbly request passage through this beautiful land. If you allow us safe journey, the humble wanderers do present you with a gift from the distant shores of Bakery Land out of gratitude. Humph. The young leader pauses and strokes his patchy beard, the only part of his face that isn't covered in paint. I stay quiet. I don't know if I would offend the group by copying the medieval lingo, or offend by speaking and not trying at all. It really depends on this punk-ass Sir Lady Walker. Can this mysterious stranger be trusted? If she wants me mugged, having the support of cosplaying leaf people would be ideal. He was my damsel in distress only a fortnight ago, your highness, but methinks the gentleman has a pure heart and sound mind. A few snorts of laughter come from the crowd, and Sinsen nods. They come to greet us and eat triple chocolate cookies from a squish box that Walker conjures from her backpack. The dank smell of weed and bodily musk emanating off the group was prominent. I only have a few indulging moments to submerge myself in self-consciousness before I'm interrogated. The girl with fiery hair and a boy with a baseball hat that states Kush Dream sleepily smiles and asks me what species I was in the LARPing universe. I make the small leap to assume that LARP is the game that they were all dressed up for, and I ask what choices I have. The point of our LARP is that you're anything. You can pick any creature, any profession. Got a lot of wizards and werewolves, archers and dragons. You could choose a 10-foot Ewok if you really wanted to, or a business fruit fly. Business fruit fly. That would be a good one, eh, Faye? The boy's voice is very easy to listen to. His arms are spotted with scales drawn on in pen. The girl who must be Faye nods. Once you choose what you want to be and the game begins, it's real. The actions you take and the things you do will affect the others. There is no good and evil, just what you believe in and what you accomplish. You can do whatever you want as long as it makes sense in your character. There are basic rules, but they can be bent if you justify it, I think. Their eyes are almost looking through me and contrast each other's. Faye's emerald and the fish boy's deep blue. Portals to the alternate reality they saw this world in, united in imagination. His hand gently takes hold of hers without looking at each other, and they share the same secret smile. We are dating in and out of game, forbidden love, you know. I didn't, but I nod. I am about to inquire about the cause of the forbid, but Walker cuts in while folding the empty bakery box. Lonzy and Faye, you missed out on the cookies. Faye shrugs. That's all right. We ate at Comkit this morning. That's the community kitchen, if you didn't know, Mr. She raises an eyebrow at me. Challenger. Walker looks pleased that her name stuck, her goofy grin making a triumphant return. As I look behind her, I notice many of the other teenagers have trotted their way back into the forest or started down the street. Sinsen was just beyond the tree barking orders at his followers. Walker comes over and shoves her mask into her left knee pocket. Looks like your game's already in motion. I don't want to interrupt. I was thinking about heading to the library instead. Anyone interested? Air conditioning in a quiet place sounds great about now. I'm sweating from the sudden social situation and the creeping temperature, as well as from the sun standing high in the sky. I nod. We're gonna stick around here. Can't leave our clan unprotected from the goblin narcs, Lonzi says. She nods understandingly. The couple hug Walker and wave goodbye to me. We part ways, us towards the concrete jungle, and them into the leafy metropolis. Chapter 9. Library. I'm glad you liked them. Didn't get too surprised by their costumes? Walker had her doe eyes transfixed on me, glittering with mischief whilst attempting to look somber. I'll admit to being moderately startled. Seems like a fun game. Free too, I say. Sitting in a chair with a book or a movie, imagining, can only get you so far, I suppose. I'm not sure I would ever participate fully in such an event, however. Makes you wonder why anyone stopped pretending at all, Walker replies. Who was the jackass that proposed make-believe wasn't mature? She shook her fist at the mystery jackass. I hum a sound of agreement. My legs ache dully as we walk along the city's vein. As we fall into silence, both of us take in the surroundings. Underneath a large balcony to our right, there's an immensely overweight woman with wily expressions and freckles. She is humming a gentle tune, pushing a shopping cart filled with an outrageous amount of blankets stacked on top of a few possessions of canned food and colored garments. Teetering on top of the pile were a few books, carefully tied up into clear plastic bags. Her knotted hair looks like a 1950s beehive stuck in a hurricane. I like to believe that perhaps she was once an opera singer, and people would gather in crowds to listen to her, pour her soul out through the mouth and into their ears. She could send you into a deep depression. She could make you cry with joy. She was one stranger's monster and another saint. Her job was lost due to a back injury and pride, hence the outdoor living and the copious amounts of bedding material. A middle-aged bundle of rags skeleton kept his face hidden under murky aviators. Curled up in a doorway also catches my eye. His scab-riddled arms and scarred face is so sad. His past may have been one of a police officer, hitting the streets, proud and egotistical of the shiny badge hanging off his hardened chest. He was bold, cutting deals with the informants, protecting the drug dealers higher-ups from incarceration. Too bold. Perhaps the man flew too close to the sun and he got burned, discovered by his untasteful actions, and shunned from the force by the rest of his middle-class society. The only friends left were those criminals who smirked as the man destroyed his life on the substances he once protected. Further down the street, an old, crinkled, thin man dressed in harem pants and a vest lazed on top of a patterned towel, outside on a warm day, seemed to be quite content with the lifestyle he leads. I feel like this is the man who spent his entire life in the back of a Volkswagen van, taking trips while taking trips, across country again and again. His face was content and like a flower soaking in the sun. Every individual in the city has such character. Confidential stories of the years gone by, written on their bodies. I feel a longing for the world to be more open, that it would just be all right to stop and ask for clarity about the sniveling child they drag, or the logic behind the purchase of Gucci heels. That's it. Walker's calloused paws slides into mine and pulls me towards a circular building that reminds me of the Colosseum. The whole thing seemed to be made of pillars and windows alone, woven together in a checkered pattern of concrete and glass. We pushed through the transparent doors, rushed past the aroma of coffee, up the escalator, and into the rows of books. The distinct scent of old ink and dusty pages is familiar and welcoming. Towers of novels surround us in rows, our feet padding down the cheap carpet. This place is amazing. It must be 100 times bigger than my hometown's library, I whisper excitedly. I look over at Walker, surprised to see her tense body language, her messy eyebrows furrowed. Fingers tightly grasp on the gray straps of her backpack as if it held her together, her lips slightly parted as air shallowly passes through them. "Are you okay?" I ask. She faces me, looking unusually pale considering the warm lighting from above, her baseball cap slightly crooked on her head. "Listen, today I sort of have a meeting with let's call her an acquaintance. I need some information that I can't get from a book." "Of what sort?" I inquire. Her cheeks have gone red. "Well, it's a personal matter of mine. I would have told you sooner if it wasn't something that would have come up in conversation. If there is one state of mind in others I can recognize, it's anxiousness. I hope I react appropriately." "You can tell me," I say, confidently as I can muster. She eyes me, and even in her state says, "I like that you don't even know what you're nervous about yet always preparing ahead." A whistle comes from down the aisle. We both turn to see a plump figure leaning against the end shelf of a modern history section. She wears large insect-like sunglasses that cover most of her face and flannel everything else. "That's her. If you'd like, you can wait and I'll tell you the whole story. If you want to leave without me, that's cool too. I don't want to tie you down if you want to drift solo. Now, would it be a good time to take off if you wanted to? I hope you do stay though. This should only take a few minutes." She squeezes my arm and frazzled walks away. As she goes, I notice the front of her dirty backwards hat. There are 3 little mountain peaks embroidered in white. And here lies the crossroads, so it seems. If I do hear this seemingly sinister secret, will I be put at risk, retreating back the way we came down the hall, back off until I'm out of sight? The escalator is only a few steps away now. Hushed murmuring of the library sneaks into my ears and swirls around my throbbing thoughts. The whole idea of coming to the city was supposed to keep me safe, a low profile. I've only lived to look out for myself. I keep my head down. I peer up to observe, categorize, search for the words that explains the situations happening around me that I barely understand on my own. The original plan, however, didn't take into account that I would make a friend. I can't seem to do the logical thing and walk away. Maybe because I knew exactly what lay ahead if I did. The entirety of my life laid out like a map in front of my eyes, down that solitary escalator. I would eventually find a minimum wage job, maybe at a factory, work there for the rest of my life, 80 hours a week, go home, smoke, sleep, repeat, die, the end, no reason, lives spent wasted struggling, day in and day out, for the end result of nothing, a few tears, a bundle of flowers, and fading memories, if you're lucky. Predictability is boring. I sigh. Fuck it. I plop into an oversized armchair and start to wait. Chapter 10. Hello, goodbye. I barely began to read the first paragraph of the abandoned book that I had found on the arm of my chair, Sherlock Holmes, The Final Problem, when a high-pitched shrill rips through the quiet. Walker bursts through the aisle like a shot, whistle clamped in her teeth. Still sounding the alarm, she locks panic eyes with me as she jerks her head to the right. My brain has to catch up with my legs as I start after her, sprinting our way into and down a stairwell. Walker throws her shoulder into the emergency fire exit only, and alarms start blaring, fluorescent lights flashing. "What the hell are you running from?" I scream. Walker showing no signs of slowing down. "My dad!" she yells over her shoulder. "What?" I whip my head around, scanning the crowd that began to gather outside of the library. It only took me a moment. As soon as I laid eyes on him, I knew who he was. I knew because he was staring right at me with the same eyes as Walker's. A mountain man. I knew because his face was beet red with hot rage that sent shivers down my spine. And I knew because I have never seen a grown man sprint so fast. "He's right behind us," I warn her. "Fuck," she screams back. I could hear the earthquake of each crashing step of the man behind us. Walker jolts right into traffic and covers our path. Our feet pound the sidewalk like rain as we inconvenience passerbys with our escape. I quickly look behind me. We've made a bit of ground from the monstrous man who hasn't said a word, the man barreling after us. Suddenly he dodges onto the road and pulls out keys. "Oh God, Walker, he's got a truck." "Good." She takes a sharp corner, getting out of the line of vision of our pursuer. I turn and almost run her right over. She had stopped in front of a peeled painted door, pressed every intercom and buzzer button. I start banging on the entrance as hard as I can. Come on," she murmurs. From here I can hear the engine of the truck start up. I notice across the road a police station. "Should we go to the police?" I say. "No, that's just as bad." Suddenly the door hums and pops open. She pulls me inside by my collar and slams the door. We barely have time to duck our heads as we see the top of a banged-up red truck shriek by the swirled window glass. We run further into the building to make distance between us and him before running out of steam. We both have our hands on our knees, gasping for air. I look into her dark eyes questioningly, and she is suddenly hugging me, face buried into my shoulder. I don't have time to catch her, so we slump to the floor. "I'm so sorry I put you through that," she whispers. My head is swirling. I cannot remember the last time I have been hugged. My arms feel long as they wrap completely around her waist. A few people peek their heads out from the brightly lit corridor to see who is ringing their buzzer. Once they did not recognize us, they quickly snap back in. Soon as I feel her heartbeat slow down, so close to my own, I ask the question burning in my mind. "Tell me, why is your dad chasing us around like a psychopath?" She sniffs, and I can feel the sweat from her cheek on my neck. "Because he is one. He murdered my granddad." My stomach drops. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but it wasn't that. I pat her on the back like I see people do in the movies. She leans back and wipes her red eyes. "He was supposed to be my grandfather. Supposed," she says bitterly. "I didn't meet him until I was 10 years old. I was raised by my grandfather in a cabin up in the BC mountains. He was my best friend, my only real family. When I wasn't at school, he'd take me out into the forest, and we would spend weekends hunting and camping, so close." She pulled out a photo that was sealed in a Ziploc bag from her cargo pants and handed it to me. A tiny walker was sitting in the lap of a thin but strong man with a goatee who looked down lovingly at her. He wore a hat identical to the one she has on now. When my dad first came to visit me, I was surprised. My granddad always told me my parents were gone after a terrible car crash. I always assumed that they were both dead from the crash. It was only her, though, that died, my mother. My father was just affected by it. He lost his mind, or he damaged it behind the wheel, I don't know. I remember my granddad was so surprised when he showed up, not in the happy sense. He tried to protect me from this insanity by hiding me from it. She stumbles in her story. She strokes the picture with a shaking thumb. It wasn't enough. He found me. Even during that first meeting, I didn't feel safe around him. I saw the way my granddad looked at him with fear. I heard them arguing loudly, late into the night. And after that, I didn't see him again. Not for a long while. The house kept getting calls late in the night. Sometimes my grandfather would send me out, and when I got back, there would be tire marks on the ground of his truck. 3 years later was the next time I saw him. We could hear him from far away. The truck screaming up the trail so loudly. The headlights were shining into the windows, and my granddad grabbed my hiking bag and told me to go into the forest. Don't come back until the morning. I had barely made it out of the door when I heard the door kick down, and barely into the trees when I heard the gun go off. I wonder if Walker went back into the house to get this photo. Did she see the body of this man lying dead, killed in her own home? How does one comfort someone who is in this much pain? No one has prepared me for a moment like this. She looks so very small, hands pulling up her knees into her chest, as if it were holding her together. I slide my dirty sneakers over so they touch hers. I'm sorry, I say. No, I am, she says. She blows her nose into her sleeve. I shouldn't have put you in danger. That man has been hunting me ever since that day, and now he knows you're with me, and I can't go to the police because they would send me to a foster home. Walker shrouds herself in self-hatred and sleeves for allegedly dragging me into this. It makes me uncomfortable seeing her this distressed, but also flattered. She cares about my safety. I can understand her not wanting to go to a foster home. A classmate I shared a class with had been bouncing around from foster homes to foster homes for years. He didn't tell me this himself, but I eavesdropped on a conversation as he hit on the cute girl that sat beside him, looking for sympathy. He said it was a 50-50 chance of landing a family of angels or of devils in a move. Avoidance is my defense mechanism, and my brain tries to pick petty over important. I shake it off and focus on the issue at hand. Will I let a murderous relative sway my cohesion with my newfound companion? I wasn't near done unlocking what was so fascinating about her. I don't know if I ever could, but the thought of leaving her story now doesn't seem applicable. We have mutual goals. Our functioning complements the other, like the ego and the id. I feel whole, I suppose. Is that worth risking my life over? Even I am affected by the lonesome silence of solidarity, it seems. My legs are so long, and I'm great at running away. Might as well make use of it. I think the danger is worth the company. At least we're stuck here together. She looked up at me through crossed arms. Her makeupless eyes smiles as she leans against me. I reciprocate the gesture and pushed her shoe around with mine. Heavy information. But if anything, I feel better in this companionship. For once, a perfectly illogical reaction. Whose closet isn't filled with skeletons after all? Head off, I ask. Let's dip. Chapter 11. Say no to fun. Walker knows a resident in the building we are trapped in. She grumbles he's not once answered the bell like a normal person. We climb up a dirty stairwell, passing graffiti that gets more and more illegible. She knocks on the door with the numbers 420 written on it, as the actual metal numbers representing the address have been presumably stolen. We hear movement, but it is another 5 minutes before it rattles open and someone peers through the crack with the chain still on. Bloodshot, sleep-dusted eyes glare at me. "What it do, home skillet?" rumbles the guy. Hi," I say, and point to Walker. "I'm with her." He double takes when he looks past me and screams in a husky voice, "Baby girl!" After fumbling with the locks, he bursts out and swallows Walker in a hug. This extremely muscular man brought with him the overpowering and familiar dank smell of a stoner. As I watch her tickle him under his tank top, I feel a twinge of jealousy. Is this her boyfriend? "Challenger, this is Tetchy," she squeaks. He throws her over one shoulder and her backpack over the other. "Get the hell in here, I need drinking buds." I follow them inside. Tetchy tosses Walker onto a furry futon that almost takes up an entire wall. The apartment was cramped, illuminated in a yellow light. A mixture of men's workout clothes, pizza boxes, and women's lingerie litter the floor. The tabletops have the most elaborate selection of drug memorabilia I have ever seen. Nicki Minaj's butt is bouncing in the box television, and I nearly trip over a weight set as I make my way over to a stained beanbag chair. It put me on edge to be in a stranger's house, but it felt better than good to sink into the beans and rest my legs. "You need to stop working out so much. You're taking up too much room." What did you say to me?" Walker starts playfully punching him in the abs and he flexes. "I said we need a place to crash tonight." "Still haven't landed a place, eh? Thought you were going to be living with Booster?" "Well, things didn't quite work out with us." I sat there a little awkwardly and fiddle with the zippers on my bag. Social anxiety is creeping in and tightening my chest, and I'm hypersensitive of where my tongue is in my mouth. This third wheel situation is very uncomfortable. I try to loosen up by analyzing myself as I would someone else. Anxiety is not something I feel. It's not an emotion. It's a physical tenseness that makes my mind sharp and fixates on my own body. This can be very distracting when people are around. I force myself to pry my mind off of the sweat in my own hands and throw it into the conversation around me. "You need to get on that welfare train. They hook you up with a place," Tetchy deliberates. "I can't do that paper trail, dog. Plus, I like living life with a challenge. And sometimes a challenger." She sticks her tongue out at me. "Why, you drinking tonight?" "Few guys I know from the VFS block are having a huge kegger to celebrate the end of the semester. Going to flip some ice there for profit." "A while, Vancouver film studs always go out hard." Walker's voice and movements have changed. She matches his nods and posture, talking hard like Tetchy. Like a chameleon, she blends right into the environment around her. A survival mechanism. I can't remember what drug ice is slang for, and there's no chance in hell I let them know that. "Do you smoke, bud?" Tetchy asked me. "Yeah, just, sagrats," I respond. practicing Walker's tool as I brush my hair back and try to look like a bro. Word. Marlboro? Sure. He tosses me a pack, and I light up with a Zippo. Techki is very generous, perhaps due to his inebriation. His fridge contains a variety of mold and beer, and after he pulls out a pack of tall boys, we start a drinking game to the movie of Boondock Saints. Walker knows almost every line. Once Techki takes a hit from a bong in the shape of a dial telephone, he tells me about the life of being a drug dealer. I'm only in it for 2 reasons, cash and money. I can't help it if I got expensive tastes. Expensive tastes in what? I inquire. He doesn't remember. My MP3 player gets plugged in, and we listen to a few electro trance hop songs I have on repeat. Once Walker discovers that it can take low resolution photos, she insists to snap a picture of me shotgunning a beer. Techki orders us a Hawaiian pizza to go along with our buzz. We draw an obscure map of Canada on the wall with Sharpies, while bickering about the many inaccuracies. Feeling fuzzy like the stained futon, we stumble out of the apartment and disappear into the night. Chapter 12. Lost. The headache, then the taste of blood in my mouth, and then the slap of disorientating panic wakes me up. I jolt up and almost throw up from the movement. My hand is slashed open from the broken glass that surrounds me. I'm in an alleyway that is littered with garbage, and I blend right in, torn and dirty. Where's Walker? Where's my bag? Memory seems inaccessible as I strain to remember what occurred the night before. Techki, Walker, running down the streets, drinking from a brown bag, a house party, the police. Something terrible has happened. I start to remember in choppy fragments as I dry heave. There we were, or here were we. There must have been over 100 people crammed into the student house. The party was Mayan themed, celebrating the end of the world. Me and Walker were wasted, copying people's dance moves right up behind them. I felt euphorically dumb, and Techki was in the bedroom pushing a stash. Then Walker and I were on the front porch with darts. The sirens were set off a block away. 3 cruisers pulled up right in front of us. The blue and red lights, and 2 familiar faces. The policemen we blew up with fireworks. That moment of eye contact, me swearing slowly, Walker pulling me out of my trance and off the porch, and the chase. They took us by foot, a mistake since we had no bags to weigh us down. We ran fast as we could, dipping through the tight spaces between buildings. We got separated when I boosted her over a fence and didn't have time to climb over myself. So I kept running, leading them away from her. The officer hyena had been lucky. Accidentally cut me off from the other side of the alley. I don't remember much of the beating once Mustache slammed into me from behind. One holding me, the other used my body as a punching bag. I won't forget the laughter, though. I gingerly touched my head. and find the blow that had knocked me unconscious. I can only hope it is the alcohol making me throw up and not a concussion. It felt like my limbs would break off as I straightened to a stand. One of my eyes is almost swollen shut. My left hand had been stomped on and was turning shades of blue. I was afraid to see the damage done under my clothes. So I limped towards Techke's place. I got many stares, but no inquiries to if I need help. Fortunately, his building is nearby. I curse the invention of stairs and hangovers. His door is unlocked, and I gingerly open it and peer in. Techke is passed out, bong in hand. There is a rail-thin, topless girl beside him, texting on a cracked iPhone, makeup giving her raccoon eyes. She gives me a once-over, and I guess she likes what she sees, because she tries to put on her best duck face. Tech is currently unavailable at the moment. Please leave a message at the beep, she giggles. I don't have time for this. Techke, wake up, man, I say, and shake him. Dude, leave me alone. Can't you see I'm getting late, he mumbles, still half asleep and in the bag. Where is Walker? Man, I don't know. She can look after herself. She don't live here. When's the last time you saw her? At the party. My heart began to beat faster. I see that her hiking bag is still propped up in the corner. She might be in trouble. I need your help to find her. I'm not a fucking GPS, man. As I crane to look out the window, the girl begins to pull on my pants, annoyed that the attention is not on her. I can think of a few funner things we can do than look for some girl, she purrs. I bat her off. You can borrow her if you want, dude. Just stay on that side of the bed, Techke says and rolls over. No, I shout as I wrestle with this girl's bony fingers, trying to worm their way down into my boxers. If you aren't going to fucking help, at least you can look after her stuff while I look. And she's not just some girl. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about me, a familiar voice says. I turn to see Walker, leaning against the doorframe, grinning from ear to ear. It disappears quickly when she sees the state of my face. Holy shit, are you okay? She grabs my hand and pulls me into the washroom. This place is a fucking bus terminal, Techke whines. In the mirror, I finally get a glimpse of the damage done. My lip is split open. I'm speckled in blood and bruises. The colors of my eyes look drained, leaving 2 gray clouds in their place. It's not as bad as it looks. I just need to wash the blood away, I explain, not truly believing it myself. She wets a wad of toilet paper and starts washing me up. They are getting much worse than fireworks next time I run into them, she says darkly. Where did you end up? I ask. Police were everywhere, so I ended up staying at a McDonald's for the night. In the bright fluorescent light, I can see the dark rings under Walker's doe eyes. Her freckles are like looking at the tanned version of the night sky. So concerned for me. I'm grimy enough that we give up trying to wipe it all off, so I steal a towel off the floor for a shower. Walker goes to curl up for a nap in the bean bag. The sound of water bursting forward sounds so inviting from the shower. I didn't even wait for it to warm up. I peel off the many layers of my clothes. Light jeans, dark coat, black t-shirt, green briefs. I step in and feel the cool water, making the hairs on my arms rise. I almost forgot how much I love showers. If only one piece of modern technology could be kept, this would definitely be my top choice. My body is starting to relax like a sigh. It had been a very stressful past few days. Walker's world is so fast-paced, living day to day on the run, like a bandit from a western. No, not just Walker's world, our world. My hands knead my hair with suds. I've committed myself to this relationship now, I realize. This platonic survivalist companion is something to me, which is intimidating. It's nice. The good news is I'm not a robot, which I was fearing. The bad news is after all this time, I finally have something to lose. Always a price. I crank the rusty shower knob to the off position and step out. The mirror is steamed up, and I rub it with my forearm. God, I look thin. The farmer tan had also developed from all my time outside. However, the destruction to my frame almost makes me look tough. As I rub the musky smelling towel on my head and deodorize myself with deodorant, my mind bites down and refuses to release Walker's past. I take the bait, chew through it. This constant game of cat and mouse with her father must weigh on her greatly, though she would never admit it. An anthropologist would say I should not interfere with the environment. That's what I once considered myself to be. Uncertified, of course, but studying the origin, development, and varieties of human life. Always on the outside, but this time I'm immersed in the story. I want her to have a happy ending. So maybe I can use the knowledge I've collected from the story, from observing, and finally use it for something productive and good. Wouldn't that be nice? To have a reason for existing with this mind that's given me nothing but isolation for so long. The intensity of living in a world that worships the extroverted and hot bodies has convinced me for too long that I wasn't relevant. Once I change, nudge Walker awake, and quietly collect our belongings, my brain begins to hatch a plan that will eliminate Walker's father-size baggage. Chapter 13. Boo. I'm still musing as we walk under a canopy of cotton clouds. Walker comments that dandelions are her favorite flowers. Not really paying attention, I tell her they aren't flowers, they're weeds, but she says they're just as pretty. My concentration is completely broken, however, when moments later, a tall woman lugging a massive purse and shrouded in a starry poncho calls out Walker's name from down the street. Poofy hair bounces, almost immediately covering her eyes as she skips towards us. Walker's face is shocked as mine when the woman embraces her and the biggest kiss right on the lips. My eyes nearly pop out of my head. "How are you, sweet lady?" she coos, squishing Walker's cheeks to make a fish face. "Same old, Booster, how are you?" she says in a funny voice to match the fish visage. She looks over at me in utter embarrassment. My mind is 110% blown. "Just went on a delicious shopping spree. Your friend cool here?" Booster looks me up and down with some sassy curiosity. "I wouldn't describe him as cool, but he's alright." "Well, check it." Booster opens her bag with her long tiger painted fingernails. The inside is lined with layers and layers of tinfoil, surrounding about 30 pairs of sunglasses. 5-finger discount. They both laugh at my puzzled face. "The tinfoil blocks the alarm gate signal," she explains. "That way I can get a bunch of items out of store without detagging them. From there, it's an easy sell as designer sunglasses online into wasted idiots at midnight." Now I'm impressed and confused. I've heard of other ways to trick the security around the store, but this was most effective. Walker recovered from her surprise, pulls out a pair of mirrored aviators, and tries them on. "These are nice," she says, checking herself in the window shop reflection. "Where'd you get 'em?" "Walmart. People down there don't get paid enough to actually pay attention." She looks at me, hands on hip. Her makeup gives her big cat eyes, her stance the air of entitlement. "When I have to steal, it's only from the evil corpse. The big guys in suits aren't about honesty or fair play when dealing with customers or employees. So why should I? I tax them." I don't care what she does, but I like to play the devil's advocate. "Doesn't that raise the price of items for everyone else, though?" She huffs and flicks her curls. "They would raise the price anyways, selfish jerks." Booster zips the bag up and touches 2 fingers under Walker's chin. "You look so damn cute in those. I'll give them to you for free." "Thanks," Walker responds, her cheeks reddening. "Anywho, no rest for the wicked. If you want me, you know where to find me." She winks and floats off like a cloud. I give my best exaggerated look of inquiry at Walker, and she avoids it by staring bug-eyed ahead. "Always awkward running into an ex," she mumbles. This was too good. I would have never imagined her dating someone so girly. "So, what happened between you two? Because it seems to me that she still wants that." She snorts and pushes me. "It's none of your frickin' business, that's what." "Come on, tell me." "No." I attempt to get her in a headlock, but she worms away and starts to run. Worm jeans. My jog after her is quite pitiful. Injuries and bag are seriously slowing me down. She dances around in front of me easily, with no chance of capture. As I shout insults, I can't help but construct the image of the two of them when they were together. Arms around each other's waists. Walker stroking her girlfriend's hair and then kissing a sensitive spot. What it would like to be with her. She's high energy and loud in personality, so I bet, no, too far. The heaviness of guilt pulls me away from the thought into reality. Thinking of her that way feels wrong. "All right, I give up," I call out. I do need to sit down somewhere, though. I'm tired as hell. "Cool, let's grab some food." We head to the nearest cafe, a little home-owned one that intrigued us with its beautiful sign. Once we checked the prices, we settled down on the patio with coffee and sandwiches. I realize I still have Tetchke's pack of cigarettes and happily tuck one behind my ear as we eat. "Can I ask you something?" I ask through a mouthful of egg salad. From behind my head, the sunlight pours onto her face. Every hair on her head was illuminated. She looks like a dusty angel. As long as it isn't about my dating history. Why is your dad still after you? Presumably because he's criminally insane, she wagers, adjusting her new sunglasses. I push on. Do you think he has a reason? Like what? Like, I don't know. Maybe he wants to apologize or something. That's an interesting way of looking at it, she chuckles once. But no, I don't expect that's the case. That wasn't our first rodeo. I've had visits about a dozen times over the past few years. Sometimes I go forever without being bothered. Sometimes it's like he's hovering over my shoulder constantly. But it's always been a consistent, fucked up hobby for him. He enjoys it. I'm extra careful during the weekends because that's when he looks for me most. Sometimes when I see him, he doesn't see me. And I wonder if there have been times where he's seen me and I haven't seen him. That gives me the creeps. She shudders. He found me in a crowded summer festival last year. That was the closest he's ever gotten to me. I turned around and there he was. He was smiling at me like I was something to eat. The big bad wolf. He said we needed to talk. And I screamed at the top of my lungs. I screamed so everyone was looking and I ran. He couldn't follow me after that. No, I don't think I would have hung around to find out what he wants. My guess is he wants me in jail for the murder. I hang on to every word Walker is saying, every detail. The psychological profile of this man would be fascinating to dissect and a professional assessment. Delusional and violent, psychotic. The car crash probably caused an injury, a damaged mind. Have you ever tried to stop him? I ask. I don't know how I could. We should try to. She's finding this incredibly funny for some twisted reason. Okay. Seriously though, I mean it. Let's make it a project. There's got to be a way. We can start gathering intel on him like private investigators. Once there's enough dirt on him, we can blackmail him to leave you alone. I act like this is the first time I'm thinking of this. And Walker considers. She takes off her hat and starts beating the dust out on the table. This is insane. Honestly, I've spent half my life trying to block out everything that happened. I didn't know how to deal with the truth. Hell, maybe you're right though. It's a inconvenience. And what is everybody's favorite thing? Convenience. She starts to get excited, kicking my chair. You know, it's about goddamn time I get answers. And I mean, my schedule is empty. So yeah, why not? As long as you aren't busy, got any conference calls? You looking after the kids this weekend? I have no idea whether it's even possible to blackmail someone who appears to be a psychotic delusional stalker. But I'm glad we both think it would be fun to find out. Pretending to think, I stutter, I'll have to ask my secretary to cancel the staff party, but they'll get over it. Where do we start? My cigarette gets lit, and I take a big drag. Let's find out where that fucker lives, I reply, as the smoke pours out of my mouth. Chapter 14. The Reveal. Being back in the library puts me on an edge, but I'm in a better mood, as my limited moods go. Walker is typing away at one of the public computers as I stand leaning on the back of her chair. I am the eyes on the back of her head. Fortunately, the computer area has an unobscured view and an exit nearby. She thinks she has enough information to find him online. At first, she was reluctant to tell me his name. She paced and paced in front of me, looking for excuses, but I see her pacing slow, and I could see she stops and looks right at me, and I knew what she was thinking. She didn't need to carry it with her alone anymore. The same moment of realization that we were a team dawned on her, the same one that I had only days before. It felt warm, like two pieces of a puzzle clicked. I'm grateful we are on the same page, same side. So I took the name like a precious gift. The 3 words were spoken like a code, and I told her I will take the name to my grave, and she says that won't be for a while then. The last name of Walker sounded Polish, rolls over the tongue like waves onto a beach. It doesn't fit her though. It might connect her in blood, but blood is just blood. I found it, she whispered. Walker grabs a tiny piece of paper and pen kept beside the computer and scribbles down the address. She shoves the page in my face, and I almost need a graphologist to distinguish the slanting, scrawling letters. You sure? Nope. I raise my eyebrow. She squishes her face so her chin disappears. We laugh, stretch, and start towards our destination. Walker uses her reserve bus tokens, which she supposedly found on the ground, air quotations included. We hop on and squeeze ourselves into the back of the bus. Though the bus is packed, there is no conversation other than our own. Everyone is isolated in a phone or a song or their thoughts. When I was in high school, I spent my bus rides looking at the floor, praying no one would talk to me. Feelings of regret and time lost drip on my face like cold rain. So many opportunities I had passed up from the fear of the unknown. Walker begins to pet my hair as if she knows and wants to comfort me. She starts playing with the dark strands that are sporadically sticking in every direction, like a wilderness around my head. If you were a dog, you would be a Doberman with pointy ears. They have sad eyes too. She gives me a nice pat on my forehead. What do you think I would be? I roll my eyes and take a good look at her. With her gray cap holding her bangs and long braids, She would definitely be a floppy-eared dog. Her facial features make her look younger than she is. Round cheeks, little chin, little nose, and the softest eyes. A body that always moved when she talked, but stayed quiet when in thought. I poked her in the stomach while keeping eye contact. Wiener dog. What? She tries to punch me out of the chair onto the aisle with her feet, back braced against the bus wall. I lock my arms in and complain about the boot prints that are dirtying up my jacket. Many people were staring at us in disdain. I knew how they felt. We were interrupting the sanctity of what was expected in a bus ride. Any variation of the norm must be quenched. Societal protocol can bite me this once. I'm having fun. We step off the bus at the edge of town. The gravity felt heavier here. We stand side by side and look up at the apartment building across the street that lodged her father. It was a dull structure, no miracle of architecture. It was tall and thick. It made me feel like an ant. We looked at each other and share a shiver, a mixture of anticipation and exhilaration. Ladies first, she says. So I curtsy and proudly take the lead. We casually stroll by the front desk. A large woman who seemed more invested in devouring a bag of ketchup chips than anything else in this world sat behind the desk. Once we are in the elevator, she double-checks the address and the time. Her black and bulky wristwatch read 3:37 p.m. Well, we got here later than expected. Just a quick look? Deal. Any guesses what's in there? I was giddy with adrenaline. So much the whole elevator seemed to be catching it and filled with the energy. Conversation may be a calming factor to my racing brain. Well, if we find a bunch of decapitated heads in there, it'll be pretty easy to lock them up, she says, pacing the small cubic room. That may be a best case, worst case scenario. The elevator dinged and announced 6th floor. The silver door slid open. Inside, a burgundy hallway, twisted like the insides of a snake. We walk, take a left, take a right, footsteps echoing as if we were in a tomb. There was no noise emanating from the other apartments, which was strange, because just the absence of noise put me on edge. The further away from our elevator we got, the more anxious I become. The exit route is so very, very inaccessible. Here it is, she breathes. We stop at a door that looks like any of the others. An oddly average door. Nothing from the outside would distinguish the type of man that resides on the inside. She runs to hide around the corner. I ring the doorbell and join her quickly. We can still hear fine from our hiding spot. No one rustles from within. Walker opens the inside of her jacket, and inside a button pocket lies an enormous hunting knife. Have you been carrying that around you the whole time? I ask in awe. as she forces the blade in between the door lock and the wall. Of course, she grunts, hammering the knife with one of her shoes. You live on the streets and you don't have a giant knife? I wasn't informed that was part of the uniform. The door begins to crack open, and she instructs me to kick the door near the lock. After 2 tries, the door swings open, and Walker nimbly catches the tool before it falls to the ground. The inside of the apartment was lit red. A thin curtain was drawn over a large window with a bad view, forming one of the walls. As we enter the living room, pristinely clean and organized, 2 firm chairs face a leathery couch, a large wooden chest acting as the coffee table. There are no pictures on the wall. She puts a finger to her lips and points towards 2 closed doors. Ears pressed to the doors, then soft knocks, then creaks open. My door to a bathroom, hers to a bedroom. I follow Walker into the bedroom, and after a quick glance around, she freezes, hand over her mouth. What is it? I whisper, trying to find the source of her distress in a very ordinary room. That lamp is from my grandpa's house. The lamp now seems out of place. Once it was pointed out. It was beautiful and old, unlike the rest of the furniture. Hand-carved, the lamp's base spirals upwards in 3 pieces of shining dark wood. Walker's face twisted into expression of shock and loathing. In a few strides, she's across the room, inspecting it closer. Her usual tall and confident posture is pulled like a child's. This is causing me not sadness, determination. Right this wrong. Was it a mistake coming here? We're going to take him down for your grandfather. We have to stay focused though. Just observe and leave quickly as possible. She nods and touches the bark softly one last time. I'll look in here. You look out there. Make sure you put everything back the way it was, she says, without looking at me. I already know what I want to search. I make my way over to the chest, and to my surprise, it opens with no lock and key. Inside is an assortment of items. A box of cigars with 2 missing. An assortment of CDs. A toolbox, ordinary things, simple. Seems too generic. I rub my temples, quickly memorizing the placement of the items. I take them all out and check for a fake bottom. It seems to be too thick, but the wood wouldn't move. I search the outside. I notice a small loop protruding out of one of the corners. Using my pocket knife's blade tip, I wiggle it in and pull. Out pops a hidden panel, and inside, pictures. There must be at least 100 of them. All of Walker. Using my sleeves, new pictures are revealed as I push them around. Pictures of her wandering the street when she was young, scared. Pictures of just her face. Pictures so eerily close as she slept in a bus terminal. He must have been standing right over her. I take out my MP3 and snap a few pictures of them lying there, then take one with the full room in view. I place all the items back in. Then Walker comes in, holding in gloved hands a gun in the back of his closet. It's unloaded, she states. She seems in awe of holding such a weapon. It was a pistol of some sort, silver and gold. It almost looks like a piece of art, too attractive to be a machine made for death, almost too fragile, almost. We hear a click at the door. I close the panel and lid as the door swings open. Walker freezes at the sound. Her father steps through the threshold. He seems to smell her before he sees her, his nose pulling his head around. The giant fills the doorway, unkempt beard outlining his frown. A moment in time pulls taut like a string around a throat as identical eyes bore into each other. He pulls the doorknob closed behind him. My presence is barely noticed. Well, what do we have here now? Is spoken low and raspy, a voice that must barely be used. My mind icily solidifies in concentration under the pressure. Cold calculations that kept me well creep in. The finite amount of incomes that could occur flicker in my peripherals. In which one do we come out on top? What tools do I have? Walker is both shaking hands on the gun, unsure of whether to point it or not. She is frozen like in the picture, suspended. I can see her terror like white noise. The MP3 is still in my hand, and I switch the program from photo to video recording and slip it into my jacket. We want to understand you. Will you let us have a seat? He seems surprised that I speak or exist. Static tension expands into a triangle, with me checking in. The man is sizing me up, the gears crunching away behind those dark, deep eyes. Familiar eyes. If she was 40 years dead. He straightens up to his full height, the intimidation factor overbearing, the epitome of old-fashioned masculinity. Does he thrive in power over us? Is that what I see clearly in his clenched jaw? I'm diving into stalking methods he is using. Giving him that power now will make him feel in charge and open. Being comfortable will be the end of him. Acting has never been my strong suit, of course, but I look fearful and respond by slinking away. With a grunt of satisfaction, he stretches, popping his joints like fireworks. Further analysis of his appearance allows me to presume he's come home from work, mud-caked steel boots, with big rings under his eyes, and pit stains on his plaid button shirt. Suddenly his face changes, lighting up with gleeful malice. His tone changes, loud and booming noise that stings my ears. Wasn't expecting company. Had I known, I would have baked a cake. You love lemon poppy seed, sweetie. The words hit us in the chest and send us spinning. That wasn't a question, but a statement, an assumption he knows her on a personal level. The man grins at Walker and winks, and her distress is real. In a flash, he strides over and grabs the gun. They momentarily have a pulling contest, which he wins by twisting hard and yanking down. There we go. It's okay, sweetie. My gun is my gun. Go over with your little friend. She looks at me and I nod. I give her a small, encouraging smile. I stand up and sit at the chair closest to the door. Rather than choosing the other chair, she sits on my armrest. Her warm breath beside me is comforting. Simple questions, I whispered to her, as a man takes time roughly fluffing a pillow and puts it behind his steaming back. The gun rests on his knee, casually pointing directly at my navel. I was hoping he would assume the pistol was loaded, and he did. More false power. Will you put the gun down? Asked Walker. He taps his black head-infested nose twice and wraps the nozzle. He considers that a sufficient response, and we sit in silence. I guess not then. I eventually speak up, more to the MP3 than to anyone else. Why have you been following me? She says, a voice more confident this time. He leans back on the couch and hums a few notes while stroking his facial hair. I'm blinking. Dust falls out of the beard and floats in the air like a cloud of poison. You look like your mother. I've told you that, of course. I must have told you that. He contemplates slowly. I'm a patient man, but you know that by now. Don't be stupid. Your mother wanted me to wait until you were ready, and she tells me that sometimes, so I'm waiting. It's only fair, and I've told you that, of course. At this point, Walker is completely unnerved. Her whole body is shaking, and she grips the side of her chair like it's holding her together. And I've never met someone with schizophrenia before, and I wonder if this is the case now. My pocket knife lies cold and inviting in my jacket sleeve. I'd like to hold her hand to comfort her, but I'm worried physical contact may have dire consequences. Tell me again, she asks. His knuckles and neck crack. He rolls them together like thunder clouds in the distance. The man nods and responds as if Walker had asked. You are an adult soon, little girl. I know you are playing hide and seek with me, but there's 53 days. Yes, 53 days left now until your birthday. I knew that, and that was the deal. You can't rope yourself out of a deal. Laughter so hoarse it sounds like soot escaping lungs rings through the apartment. My birthday? It's only fair, sweetie. I've looked after you, even though you've been so ungrateful. The expression on his face suddenly switches like a light. Of course, I could take it whenever I want to, with just a click of a button. He holds the gun up to eye level and pretends to shoot, making the sound effect. Pew. Walker responds, but Mom said I can live for another 53 days? That's true, the father agrees, relaxing his arms into his lap. Day before you turn 18. Gotta stay a child. I get lonely. Watching you is like looking into the past. You make me feel young again. Well, Thanks, I appreciate that, she says, thoroughly miffed and panicked. The man yawns, as if this is all old news, as if this is a story he's discussed one too many times. I was impatient to reach the end. The past is the past. When we move on, it all has to go. The night she flew out the window shield, well, she's forgiven me now. He tilts his head ever so slightly. Still, one down, one to go. The man yawns. If what he's saying is correct, if in fact nonsense is fact, what a world he lives in where murderous self-entitlement is defensible by delusions of justification. I'm content with the amount I've recorded. It was time to get out, unharmed preferably, the man's weak spot. Time to take a whack at an Achilles heel. I take a deep and silent breath. I meditate. It may be one of my last. Lightning fast, I'm out of my chair and towering over him. My shadow blotches out the red light from his face. His withered forehead arches in surprise. It's time to go, I cry. It's past our bedtime. As soon as I move, Walker is grabbing our bags and opening the door. Her father starts to get up after her, fixated. But I stick my finger in his face, forcing him to sit if he doesn't want his eye removed. I use this distraction to end the recording in my pocket. I pick the most demeaning, most intimidating person I know to impersonate, to turn the tables. The miracle of the weak, revolting, I snarl in the voice of my mother's boyfriend. You will see her in 53 days. Prepare. I quickly make my way to the door when I hear a metallic click. Though I've never heard the sound before, it was easily identifiable. He had pulled the trigger. Not rage, no, a cutting chill rips into the core of me. I win. I feel the own man's ego smile creep into my own demented grin. When I turn, he reels back and lowers the gun away from my head. The look of horror on his face is so satisfying. You can't kill a memory. I laugh. No, I choke on my hatred as I slam the door. Chapter 15. Backup plan. Walker runs for about half an hour before slowing to a halt. She's so out of breath, she simply waves her hand around at me. I'm not sure what that means, so I high-five it. I lead her into a grocery store nearby, and we slide down to a squat against the wall, soaking in the free AC and drinking from our water bottles. I tell her that her father will be going to jail now. She looks angry and doesn't believe me. Then I show her the recording of the entire conversation. She yells, "You smart son of a bitch," and tackles me to the ground, rolling me around in a sweaty hug mess. I hold the MP3 gingerly at arm's length away to protect it. We end up crashing into a fruit stand, causing a cascade of oranges to rain onto us. I suggest, I say into her hair muffled, we make some copies of this and spread it out right away. We fly to the library, making a quick pit stop at the computer store to pocket 4 USBs. Walker covers my back this time and writes a letter. As I do a quick upload, then 4 downloads of the recording and pictures. 2 for Walker and 2 for me. as we decide to split up and drop off the information to separate, hopefully trustworthy individuals. Hurrying south to my destination, paranoia of being followed keeps me sharp. I walk into the Vancouver Police Department building, hood on. The receptionist is nice and nods excessively when I insist the importance of the contents of this floppy yellow envelope. Inside was a full explanation written by Walker, depicting the details of the personal hell she's endured under the wrath of the man. It included the address we visited, a location they can find us every Wednesday at our park for the next few weeks if they needed us in the future. I included copies of the photographs I took of the drawers. I didn't have high expectations, but I hope it was enough. Right outside the station, I managed to sneak onto a bus without paying back uptown. I pressed my sweaty head against the cool window. The vibrations from the engine massaged my temple. After all the excitement, it felt good to get off my sore and calloused feet. It was up to the police now to deal with the madman, and will disappear, possibly leave this town forever. The prospect of that makes me feel low. Though the streets are dangerous, this is the first place I have felt anywhere close to being at home. A whole city to cradle me. The beautiful and shaggy subcultures that coexist in tolerance for the most part. We will try to fight for our freedom, asking the system that have failed us to assist. It feels like a prayer to God after what we've dealt with, but it is all we have right now. He won't stop hounding us without them. As we drive, I pick at my dismal shoes, worn so thin that they were like walking on flimsy paper, about as waterproof too. The duct tape in my bag becomes an all-in-one repair kit, and by the time I pull up to where Booster supposedly lives, I transform my sneakers into silvery space boots. The address Walker had made me repeat several times was much nicer than Tetchke's place. The building was relatively close to the east side and had a small and clean entrance. Booster sees me from her open window and waves me up. I'm surprised she didn't accidentally knock a potted plant on my head. There were so many crammed onto the small sill. Her apartment is too much for the eyes. An explosion of greenery and piles of identical materials. A tower of paper towel is in the shape of the Eiffel Tower. Brilliantly colored stacks of shirts almost touch the low-hanging ivy dripping from supports in the ceiling. Little mounds of items like electronics, jewelry, and razors take up most of the sitting place. "I'll be right with you. I'm just watering the daisies," Booster calls with a sing-song voice from the kitchen. "Sup," Walker says, nearly giving me a heart attack. She's cocooned up in a large assortment of floral duvets on the floor by my feet, only her head exposed. "You look like a burrito." Her hair was unbraided and her baseball cap was off. The braids had created little kinks in her naturally straight hair, surrounding her face with soft light brown waves as she rolled to try to knock me off my feet. Walker's ex glides into the room in a floor-length summer dress that was very high fashion, and I don't understand it. It continues to swirl around her as she gives me a peck on the cheek. I am bewildered. I hope it's a greeting and not a tactic to make Walker jealous, though she seems content rolling back and forth between our legs. Please make yourself at home. I have some snacks prepared in the kitchen, and I've hidden that little USB all snug as requested. It's in the cat cookie tin. I find it odd to talk to someone who may know Walker better than I do. Thanks, was the best I could come up with. She was an attractive woman, with features not unlike the beautiful flowers in her apartment. I have to run to a business transaction right now, and I'd appreciate it if you looked after this little minx for me. She bends over and tickles the trapped Walker, who giggles and thrashes around. Walker's lips seem to have the same shade of lipstick as Booster. Walker looks at me for help from her tormentor, but I shrug. Sorry, she made me snacks. My hands are tied. I leave them alone and head to the kitchen, looking around for snacks, but all I see are what appears to be globs of tar. I see a recipe card for vegan date bars. Oh. I was so hungry I didn't care about the appearance. I wolfed down the blended monstrosity and was choking through my second when I hear the door close and Walker call out, "You know you could have saved me." I lean in the doorway and point the date bar at her. If you tell me what happened between you two, maybe next time I will. Nosy bastard, she grumbles, trying to untangle herself from the sheets. How'd the police drop-off go? Fine. A sigh of relief. Good. Dragging me with one hand and holding the blankets in the other, she leads me to the bedroom. We look at each other and grin. This time, I know exactly what she's thinking. The leap in the land is high and soft. This must be the comfiest bed in the world, a dozen blankets in each different pattern, with textures that feel wonderful. I quiet my mind that has been chattering like an audience before a show. I let my heart slow. I breathe even. Here and now, we are safe. Birds and traffic mean the world is spinning as it should. I feel her arm wrap around me. Her eyes hold pools of gratitude, and a blink sends them down her olive skin. And I try something I've never thought of trying ever before. I lean down and kiss the top of her head. She smells like earth, not floral, but the way an oak tree does. Pleasant and soft. Absent-mindedly, she strokes my hair. Yes, she was worth the fight. We both lie there in silence, minds battling the demons that were today. Do you believe in soulmates? Walker asks. It's a distraction for what the real question is. But I follow. Distraction is good when I'm spiraling down a bottomless pit of what-ifs. What do you mean? You know, the one. You asked me why Boo and I aren't together. I like her a lot. I like her stories. We have fun together. I'm not in love with her. I thought she was, and after a time I knew she wasn't. You know, the one I want to be with forever. I've told her that. She thinks I'll come around, but I don't. You really believe there's a one? I ask curiously. Yep. I snort. The concept is too alien for me, the fairy tale ending. It must have happened to someone, but I don't think anyone has the capacity to cultivate a relationship like that. Well, what do you think? She says. I think there are levels of compatibility, I respond, moving my face off a pillow that smells strongly of earthworms. Out of the billions of people on the planet, there are a certain number of them that you may get along with, and even fewer that you can fall in love with. The things that you are looking for in a relationship, looks, personality, wealth, interests, say describe 1,000 people perfectly on this planet. And all that they are looking for is in you. Those are your soulmates. Lots of people find themselves in relationships that aren't 1 in 1,000. Maybe because they haven't found them yet, or they get lonely, or for other circumstances, they change their selectivity. Always the rational one, she jokes. I'm gonna have to disagree with you on this one. I think everyone has a special person they are destined to meet. The interactions that you have prepare you for that moment. You learn and change and grow, influencing other people in the process in their journey, until one day, when you're meant to, find your other half. I know not everybody falls in love. They have another more complex meaning to their journey. But whether it's in a moment, a conversation, a marriage, you will never forget or feel the same way about anyone else ever again. Your soulmate is the one that draws you in and makes you whole when you need it the most, no matter the context. I have so many questions about her viewpoint. A rush of superiority builds as I find the flaws. I want to challenge her outlook, because hers doesn't make any sense. What about brain-dead babies? There's no possibility that we can meet more than one person that influences our lives. Nobody can fall in love more than once. What about me? Could you be my soulmate, but I'm not yours? Turning, I'm ready to release my case like a tsunami. I open my mouth, then I close it. Walker's eyes are closed, so peaceful. A soft smile on her face. The darkness of what occurred so recently was lost to her for this moment. She holds my arm, trusting and warm. I come down from my pillar slowly, regretfully. It would be selfish of me to take away her faith in something so innocent that brings her so much joy. I sigh and shuffle over until my head lies on her belly. The diminishing rush of egotism leaves me feeling empty and wishing I could believe in Walker's soulmates too. We fall asleep together as the sun begins to set slowly in the west. Chapter 16. A Dream. Waking up is hard to do when the sheets are softer than reality. I feel Walker leave the bed. I hear mutters of voices drifting in the hall, and then a door squeak close. I slide back into the darkness of my dreams, which conjure and disappear faster than I can hold on to. Once I've accepted to stay in the world of the living, we pack up and leave a thank you note for Boo. Walker sniffs the potted flowers once more, before we find ourselves drawn to the sound of music. We follow the accumulating pedestrians, all drifting towards a common location. They take us to a blocked-off street, a tent city that sprung up while we slept. This is very unusual for me, walking along a machine turf with hundreds of others. Once we pass the orange barricade, Walker squeaks in delight. An art festival? Oh, we are going to do something good. Holding her backpack straps, she jogs forward quickly. A run for most people's jog. And I stick to her close like a magnet. Easels, dancers in tiger costumes, obscure melodies whip by as we move. I'm baffled by the odd ship-like contraptions made of metal and smiling stuffed toy heads mounted on spikes. I've never understood the depth that art takes people in the traditional sense. I respect the talent that it takes to be able to draw exactly what you see. But abstract is beyond me, a dimension that I may never see. I do like the shock I get when something particularly strange shows up in an exhibit, and maybe that's what it's all about. We find an empty space between a tent carrying clay molds of mountains and a tent holding bizarre taxidermy animals. Walker spreads out a plaid blanket that is usually hooked to the outside of her bag. "What are you doing?" I ask, puzzled. "We are going to make art," she replies, picking up a stray Tim Hortons cup from the ground and washing it out with some of her canteen water. "I got a sweet idea. Take off your shirt." "What?" I stare at her. She smirks. "You don't trust me? I'm gonna take off mine." I thought I was getting more sarcasm, but she actually begins to. Forest raincoat gone, tan zip-up sweater gone, and then her tank top. All that's left is her sports bra and cargo pants, with her signature bulky rope belt. She begins rummaging through her bag. "You better hurry up, or I'm gonna look weird." "You are," I laugh. Strength and weird unity? This is the first time I've seen her body like this, with a great farmer's tan. Her stomach is white all the way up to her tank top line. Not as thin as I would have guessed. No, she's strong. Her muscles visible as she straightens up, holding onto a marker. She gives me raised eyebrows. I roll my eyes and figure, why not? I drop my bag beside hers. My car coat is in my bag already, and I peel off the slightly sweaty bullseye t-shirt I've owned since I was 14. A gust of wind hits my bare chest, and a pang of anxiety. I feel exposed. 100 eyes on me. I squeeze my own shut. Walker grabs my shoulders and gives me a shake. I calm myself. Tons of people surround us in skimpy clothing. I shouldn't feel sexualized or out of place. I don't want that feeling. We just look at each other for a moment, appreciating what the other one is. "Your tan lines are almost as bad as mine," Walker concludes. We should write something on each other and then chill out on our bags and look artsy. We thought about it for a long while. I was one to think of something first. I pull out the marker from her hand and write in big black font against her smooth, pale skin. When she reads it, she smiles and knows exactly what to write on me. The marker bounces between my ribs as she scrawls along my diaphragm. We use our backpack as pillows and lay on our backs. My long body spreads towards one tent, and her small one sprawls towards the other, our heads lining up as we look up into the sky. And we drew quite a crowd that day. Many whispers and pointed fingers. Some put money in our cup. Some contributed looks of sympathy. Not once did anyone stop to speak to us as we lay there in the street, half naked. And why should they? We were just the lost and the found. Chapter 17. Man in the Rain. The rain slightly drizzles down the nape of my neck, and it feels cool and welcoming. Walker slouches beside me, picking at the zipper of her raincoat that's usually tied around her waist. We lean against the Bastion's silvery student car, giving us no protection of the weather, but a good view of Strathcona Park. She thinks we are wasting our day away. This is the first time that we wait for the authorities to show up to the meetup spot. I'm not so sure myself, but I don't mind wasting a few hours a week if it means information that might protect us will arrive. Patience was not a trait we share, but I have enough for the both of us. Pneumonia kills people, you know, Walker grumbles, putting her hands into her armpits like a little duck. So do fathers, I reply. She tries to hide the grin by pursing her lips. Something catches her attention, then mine, and we stumble to a standing crouch. A man in a thick wool sweater and black umbrella is making his way over the pitch, his head constantly moving around, holding a large briefcase he carries from side to side at his front, as if he couldn't pick a preference. And once he arrives to the plate, he begins searching for us, his foot tapping now and again in anticipation. I think I should go alone, Walker says, focused and ready. You sure? She limbers up. Yeah, that guy looks antsy as it is. And you're scary looking. I don't want him to have a heart attack. I wonder if that's true. No, the evidence collected from the reactions of others doesn't add up. I think I would enjoy being scary looking. Maybe just for one day. She leaves me with her hiking bag and walks towards her greeter, standing with a confidence that is fabricated but determined. I believe Walker gets nervous in the presence of authority. Her back faces me as she shakes his hand. Words exchange, nods and shakes of heads. Briefcase opens and papers given. Hands shake again. Her steps squish in the mud as she returns, head bowed. Spits of raindrops look like cold sweat. What is it, I ask, stepping out to meet her, not knowing what to expect. The color of the lively face is drained. He's dead, she says, with a blankness I'll never forget. Her eyes stare through me, This isn't right. Walker is emotion. This uncharacteristic hollowness terrifies me. I wrap her up in my arms. Her frame is rigid. We sink to the ground, and she starts to heave with tears soundlessly into my chest. We sit by the gray car under the gray sky, and I imagine a pool of blood turn black under the red light shining through the mammoth curtains, sinking into white carpet, through the floorboards, drying up and remaining in the darkness of in-between places forever. I have a sensation that I have never felt before. It fills me up with hotness. It makes my brain crunch in satisfaction. Justice. Walker tries to speak through her sobs. I straighten her up with her shoulders so she can talk to me. Pools of sorrow balance on the verge of tumbling to the ground. He was a sick man challenger, she shakes her head. I didn't mean for this to happen. They went to search his apartment. He pulled a gun on the officer, so they shot first. If he was given the help he needed, there's nothing after this. No rehabilitation, no second chance. It's just final judgment for him. And it's my fault. If there's one good thing he accomplished, it was bringing you into the world. I straighten her hat, pulling it low to her eyes, the way she likes it. I place both hands into hers. He's gone now. His part in our lives was a lesson learned. He made you a survivor. Her voice still shakes. No one deserves to die like that. I'm frustrated. Pacifism should be conditional. If the only way to stop violence is with violence, whatever he was before that man became our tormentor, a form of evil when this humanity was crushed out of him. Greed and self-righteousness sent him snarling like a wolf around a lamb. Some dogs need to be put down. Someone knew this final judgment didn't need a court system. It's not ideal, but it can't be changed, I say, sounding empathetic as I can and squeezing her. Now is not the time for a debate, right? She lets out a chopped sigh, fists tighten. I won't forgive myself. I'll have to learn to live with it. She kisses me on the cheek, and I feel the heaviness of a broken heart as I hold her around her waist and hide my joy in a dark place. Chapter 18, Treasure Chest. Walker is in a bad mood and takes it out on a surly businessman who nearly pokes her eye out with an umbrella. Nowhere in the town cheers her up as we slowly spiral to the center. I know she will feel guilty about robbing the man for no reason later, so I take the $80 of cash out of the wallet and run it back to him. The man looks at me in disgust and pinches the wallet with 2 fingers, as if I had spread my poor germs onto it. I turn and Walker is shaking her head with an overly exaggerated frown. I know she is thankful. We pick up the pace away when we hear the thundering screams of thief as the man realizes he's been duped. We find refuge at a coffee shop. Walker orders a half whipped cream, half hot chocolate with a maple donut, and I a black coffee and a blueberry muffin. The seat next to the window is nice and warm from the last occupants. Walker uses her donut as a scoop for the whipped cream and eats rapidly, humming in self-pity. I feel my stomach churn just watching her eat that mess. I think, she says in a concluding manner, it's time for a little vacation from this city. Oh? I ask, sipping my coffee with a plastic straw. Yes, I think it's time for a break. My legs are itching to walk again, and these footprints already cover every inch of this city. Where should we go then? How about India? We could go to the Taj Mahal and pray for some hot babes. I smile. I don't think that's how it works. How about England? We can start our own band of adorable pickpocketing orphans. You already got one right here, though. Oh God, that's really depressing. I'm just kidding. Sorry, she grins. What about Texas? I want my everything deep fried. First thing you would get? Deep fried butter? Gross. Don't you judge me, she retorts, and places a blob of whipped cream on my nose. I leave it on. Actually, I've been planning a trip for a while. It's something I've always wanted to do, and it's absolutely doable on our budget. Okay then, where to? She pulls her aviators out and puts them on for dramatic effect. California. Why there? Think about it. We could follow the West Coast down. Seattle, Portland, San Francisco. I couldn't do it alone. Hitchhiking solo is so dangerous. But if you're interested, I think we could make it. The Golden State. I could be down for that. Lots of Barbies and Kens roaming around there, I believe. Won't they be fascinating, she shouts, the remains of her misery temporarily forgotten. I can't wait to be judged by the most glamorous of society. We can go to the Hollywood Walk of Fame and marvel about how little of mainstream culture we have comprehended. We can give Mickey Mouse a kiss on the nose and then go surfing, she says dreamily. I've always wanted to surf. I'm sure you could convince anyone to lend you a board. You're good with people, I joke. And though she waves it off, she knows I'm right. Well, there we go, Walker beams. A new chapter for us. A spiritual journey even, I add, feeling a bit optimistic, feeling a bit spontaneous, feeling. Never would I have dreamed that I would be traveling with a best friend across country half a year ago. I grab my thin arm for reassurance that I remain in the same body that used to abuse itself. An adventure, Walker settles. Who knows what's written in the stars for us? They better not give anything away, I say, rubbing my hair to a point and looking at the ceiling, as if glaring at the cosmos to keep their mouths shut. Stars never do, even if the fortune tellers say otherwise, she winks. We stand up together, ready to go. I pick up her bag, and she picks up mine, slinging them over our backs. I realize hers has been heavier the whole time, and I'm glad to take it off her for a while. The end, or to be continued. This has been Walker, written and recorded by Johanna Dinsdale. I hope you enjoyed.